Dun.
Bomb.
Dun.
Didn't we do the same thing for Tenet?
It's not my fault that a lot of movies do the same soundtrack these days.
It's Hans Zimmer. So Hans Zimmer tends to do what Hans Zimmer does, which is dun.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Boys and girls, elephants, and dinosaurs.
Yes.
If you're a chipmunk, get out of here.
We are Couch Theater. We are today, we are
an improv comedy group, and we're struggling with our act.
We are reviewing a movie, you may have heard of it, Dune.
Dune is an adaptation, a live-action adaptation of the best-selling science fiction / fantasy. Look, man, I think labels are nonsense. Don't jump on me about this. I think Dune is more fantasy than sci-fi, but I've only actually read the first book, so whatever. It's an adaptation of the best-selling book by Frank Herbert and then his son and other people, Dune.
Yes. Yeah, it will be interesting to review this with you since you've actually read the book, and
only the first one.
I came into the movie 5-10 minutes late.
We both came in because apparently I can't read times, so... it's been a while, so I don't remember. I remember like some of the overarching things that occurred in the book, but not specifics. I have like gone back and spark notes to refresh my memory. I tried to come in let the movie remind me what happened, and then I'll go and fill the blanks in, which is what I sort of did. But yeah, about this movie.
Let's talk about production first.
Yeah, the visuals, they're stunning, they're magnificent, they're amazing, the most amazing visuals ever. I don't even know what accent I'm doing. But
Trump. I think you're doing Trump.
Oh no.
Well, that's how he is, you know.
Oh, I didn't
Best
even
visuals.
I didn't even realize I was doing that. Oh, that's terrible. Cut it. No. I was gonna say at this point, like, I've become so impressed. Like, I almost don't want to get jaded about this, but like the visuals in the movie, I'm like, these are amazing. Like not just like the classic, the good visuals. Like, no, these are actually amazing. Like, I look at it and I'm like, I believe this place exists. Like, I see everything and it all makes sense. It all looks just as real as I want it to be. And like, that's a theme with a lot of like these kind of fantasy movies these days, where like the visuals and like props to like all the CGI and effects people and costuming, like they're really doing a kick-ass job when I see these things. Like, even when I hate the movie, I'm like, it looks freaking amazing. So
yeah.
Honestly, I can't remember seeing a movie in the past year where I'm like, oh, the visuals are kind of whatever. I probably have, but I don't remember them.
They're forgettable movies. Man, the cast lineup though was huge.
Super stacked, with just like a bunch of. Honestly, the main character. I know he's not an unknown actor, but like for me, I don't really know him. He is actually the most unknown person for me in that list.
Yeah, like it was harder to find actors that you didn't know versus the ones you did know. Like, wow, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa, even Stellan Skarsgård. I know he might not be as known, but like
he's not like a name I know, but he's like a face I remember. Yeah. Though I couldn't for the life of me tell you what he's in. I just know that I recognize you. You
have a thought though about the music.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Hans Zimmer. I like his music. I've listened to Time too many times. But, okay, there's this trend that's happening while I'm saying, like, the visuals are amazing. It's like, the audio is grating on my nerves. Because the same thing happened with Tenet. And it's happened with a couple other movies where I struggle to, like, remember one right now. I don't dislike the soundtrack. I could probably download it and listen to it. But the soundtrack is actually taken away from the movie. Like, it's too loud. You go into a scene and then it's like, oh, pretty visuals, and then the music starts, even without dialogue, it's too much. It's like, I'm in the theater and I feel like I need to plug my ears right now because the music is getting too loud. But then it's worse when there is dialogue, because there are genuine points in this movie where I cannot hear what the characters are saying because the music is overshadowing it, and that is a problem. I shouldn't need closed captions to watch a movie.
Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that until you mentioned it. The thing I noticed about it was that it was more like atmospheric music, which is, I also think, is a trend, like Blade Runner 2049, The Revenant, John Williams' Star Wars, right? It's just, let's blast everything, and it's like super dope, super super cool. I also like atmospheric music. I'm just noticing that it's a trend lately to kind of have it.
Maybe
sublime.
I'm misremembering Star Wars, but I don't remember at any point like the music. Like the music is definitely there. I noticed the music, but like when things are happening, the music is very much in the background, right?
I guess I'm not talking about the loudness of the music.
Okay.
I'm talking about the music. Like it's an orchestra, right?
That's
Duel of the Fates.
It's not just like someone stringing on pulling some guitar strings. It's actually a whole soundtrack.
Whereas Dune and some like Blade Runner 49 specifically has more atmospheric music where it might be super loud and in your way, but it's not like music that is necessarily all that complicated.
Okay,
right?
yeah. It's just like mood setting, maybe.
A mood setting, yeah.
Yeah, and once again, I would enjoy the music if they just turned the volume down, like several notches. So that's like a minor gripe I have. I mean, it's whatever. I can still mostly hear what they're saying or read their lips. Or like, I don't know, get subtitles or something, but it's like, I just notice myself, like the movie will be going and I like lean forward because I'm like, I can't hear what they're saying.
Speaking of not hearing what they're saying, I came into the movie, 10 minutes late. At the point at which I came in, I guess, spoiler alerts.
Okay. If you don't know what we're about by now, that's reasonable. We've released like 5 episodes. But there's no non-spoiler talk here. I can't even begin to describe how much I cannot talk about a movie without going into what happens. So just, unless you have seen the movie or you don't care about spoilers, get out of here. But be sure to like, comment, subscribe, rate, do all the fun stuff. Promote us on social media. Join our Patreon. We don't have a Patreon.
I'm completely jaded. So what was I talking about?
No, I just derailed you. So
okay, we came into the movie a little late.
Yeah.
And the point I came into the movie, Paul, the main character, started talking weirdly to his mom with some like commanding kind of voice.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. And then she just passes him the water, and I'm like, surely there's a polite way to ask for a cup of water. What have I missed? Which I now understand is the voice. But
yeah. I guess, that's something that would be weird for you, because I just came in and I was like, oh, they're doing the voice.
Okay. But, like, you were talking about how the music was so loud you couldn't hear them sometimes. I just sometimes didn't understand what they were saying because there's so many names going around.
There's a lot of names, and there's a lot of like that. All throughout the movie, there's like this voice that's like when he's having the visions, and sometimes there's something like talking and saying strange things.
Like a witch whispering.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know who this is, what they're saying, why they're saying anything. After having gone back and like refreshed my memory on what the hell is happening in the series, that makes sense to me now. But I'll say that I don't know if I'll call it a poor job, because I think the movie it wants it to be confusing, right? It's not trying to explain that to you, but I think that maybe that could have been clearer, because watching that movie, I was very confused with what was happening there, and I had to go remind myself of what was happening. I guess I don't know if it should be that unclear.
By the end, I get it, sort of, but...
I mean, I could explain what's happening to you if you wanted to know. Or maybe you just want to watch the second movie.
I just want to watch the second movie.
His movie is weird to talk about because it's like one of at least 2 parts. Because the movie kind of ends, and I have a random tangent to go on. Is movies and TV shows in my head, and this is just completely in my head. When I watch a movie, I want a movie to be one and done. A movie, a contained package of a thing. And if something's gonna drag past that, I kind of just want a TV show. TV show tends to have a connotation of like lower quality, but these days I think we're probably moving past that, or there's some pretty high quality stuff out there. So I'm like, if you're gonna tell me something in 2 or 3 parts, like just break it up into a miniseries. Give me 4 or 5 episodes, and I'll watch it. Like I don't want to go to the theater and then be like, I guess I'll come back to the theater when you release the second one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just being weird. It's just not something I'm super into.
I see 2 parts to it. I imagine producers are like, we can make more money. Let's make more movies.
They probably can make a lot more money.
At the same time, I also see writers probably thinking, I need more time to develop this character and make him more relatable.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tough. That's why we talked about, a few episodes ago, we talked about The Green Knight.
Yeah.
That was good because the story was very much enwrapped within itself.
Yeah.
You didn't really need to say, okay, I need to find, the Easter eggs for a sequel that's coming up.
It's just one artistic vision, one story, all encapsulated, go.
So many movies these days are just trying to build, a universe.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe, the DC Universe, the horror one. They were trying to build the horror universe.
Yeah, they were trying to build a horror one.
And as much as I love all the Marvel movies and stuff, I kind of just like a movie to be a movie and not have to worry about it. Which, to some degree, the Marvel movies achieve, right? Because mostly the movie, it's the movie, and then it's the after credits and stuff that try to link everything. But yeah, that was just a weird thing I noticed, that I wasn't super happy that there was a sequel.
Okay, so let's talk about world building, because I think you've read a lot of fantasies and whatnot. You've read a lot of different people try to create an interesting world for you, and I know that Time of Wheels of Time is one that you
Wheel of Fortune.
What do you think about the world building in Dune?
I mean, Dune in general, or in this movie?
You can bring both into play. Let's start with
I think the world building of Dune is extremely well done. I mean, it's a classic for a reason. Even the Wheel of Time, Dune definitely came before Wheel of Time, and I can definitely see the influences of Dune in the Wheel of Time, right? So it's spectacular. If you delve into it, he's built a very, very rich world with a very, very complex history and yada, yada, yada. So I don't really have a problem with it. A+ job in terms of how well the movie conveyed that. I guess I'd ask you more what do you think the world is like in this? And what were you able to glean about the world? Because I enjoy that it's not on those. They're not giving you tables and tables of explanation or exposition about stuff.
Yeah.
The movie's I appreciate a movie that thinks you're intelligent enough to figure stuff out. What were you able to pull together about the world from the movie?
So although I found it confusing at times because of all the names and stuff, I will say this. It is a complex world, so I appreciate that. We'll talk about the politics later. I thought the politics was interesting. So the world building is intriguing, and I appreciate that despite its complexity, it did not treat me like a dumb person. I also think you mentioned something very interesting about it, that it's a blend between sci-fi and fantasy. I'm sorry, guys, that I always bring this up, but Star Wars...
How dare you!
Star Wars is another example, and I hear there's some similarities there, but Star Wars also blends sci-fi with fantasy, right? And it has the Force. I thought the Voice is a very intriguing idea, because whereas Star Wars has more telekinetic powers, right? Where you're moving things or creating things. This power, the Voice, right, gives you direct control over another person, right? Over their will.
So, I don't know how much I want to say about this. I don't think this is a spoiler. There is no magic per se in Dune. Which is kind of a contentious thing when there's people literally just talking to you and making you move. But within the universe of Dune, there is no magic. The Bene Gesserit are not using magic. They're just highly trained. And they've been basically breeding. They've been running a breeding program where, imagine this world where humanity has spanned galaxies and whatever. So people have developed and evolved in different ways, and there are different traits, and they're basically running this giant breeding program where they're selecting traits from people that they want, and then they very, very intensely train themselves to do specific things, and then breed those people, and then over thousands of years. So everything they're doing is not necessarily magic. It's just, from a layman's point of view, it basically looks like magic when she just makes you do something, or knows what you're thinking, but she's not actually doing magic.
Interesting. Okay. I'm sure there's more to uncover there. It'll be interesting. But I guess from the movie perspective, it feels like a fantasy a bit, and it's blending those elements, and I think that's a cool thing, because I don't think protagonists usually have a power where they can submit their will onto another person, because that's generally seen as a bad thing. Right?
Jedi mind trick?
Yeah, I guess. But that only works on the weak-minded.
Oh, those poor sodden fools, those peasants. Let's just wipe their memory.
Okay, I'm interested to hear maybe if there's based off of the Voice, it triggers some sort of psychological thing in a person. Anyhow, I'll have my theories later.
Yeah, I guess we're not really talking about the plot per se, because other than the politics, which are interesting, I don't have a lot to say about necessarily the progression of the plot. I'm starting to realize. Like, I found it interesting. So this is me and my relationship with Dune. Is same thing reading the books, same thing watching the movie. The movie was visually stunning and all that. And in terms of the world and the politics, I always found Dune interesting on an intellectual level. I appreciate what Frank Herbert and his son and all the other people who've written in this universe are doing. I think it's interesting. I just am not interested. I come to a book or a movie primarily for entertainment. And I'm not necessarily getting entertainment out of Dune. I'm just getting which is almost a very hardcore sci-fi type thing. You read the Foundation series and some of Isaac Asimov's stuff, and you're not necessarily gripped and intrigued by the cool, fun plot stuff that's happening. It's just he's exploring an idea, and it's an interesting exploration.
It's more of an intellectual stimulation than a emotional stimulation.
Yeah, I think there's this idea I was thinking of very cold and very warm stories. Tenet is a very cold story. I'm not gripped by the characters, right? The characters aren't they're not trying to pull me in and get me to love them or anything like that. It's supposed to be about the concept, the idea.
The main character is called protagonist.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we have our problems with Tenet, but at least what they're going for, he doesn't want you to necessarily be directly invested in this guy's day to day or whether or not he gets with the girl or whatever. And the same thing here, the way Frank Herbert, really digging deep into my memory, but the way I remember reading Dune, I don't necessarily care about Paul. He's pretty bland, and what he's doing is interesting, but I'm not supposed to be oh man, I'm on this guy's side, ride or die. And similar with Denis Villeneuve's style of the movie, it's very it's very cold, right? Mm-hmm. At least that's how I felt. It's interesting things are happening, but I'm not necessarily chanting and cheering for these characters to do anything.
Yeah, the pacing definitely reflects that to me. Especially, and I think movies can have a hard time with this. They might have a need or a feeling or a desire to rush to a certain particular plot point, right?
Yeah.
A big thing happens, I don't know, Master Oogway dies. Actually, that was really well done. But you get the idea. There's someone dies, right? And so the plot wants to rush to that point because that's the hard-hitting emotional point.
Yeah.
Whereas I felt with Dune, at least with the movie, it's taking its time. It's not going to rush through to hit the emotional points that happen, the coup, the actual coup that happens and stuff like that. It really takes its time to establish the characters and explore more of the world, right?
Yeah. Actually, now that I'm thinking about this one, this is very interesting. So in my head, in my own self-definitions, I think of a cold story more as a more plot-focused story. So Tenet's a very plot thing. While I think of Dune as a cold story, it is a plot-focused story, of course, but I think in the books and in the movie, they let you sit there. You can just sit with the character. How often do we get to just sit with the character, sit in the world, and just breathe and experience it without something happening?
What would you define that as? Yeah.
Because in my head, I'm when you have a story where you're very invested in the characters, you can have scenes upon scenes or chapters upon chapters where nothing necessarily is happening. The characters are just being themselves, and because you're invested, you're in it, you care, you dive in. And I think if you're not invested in the characters, you can't do that. The plot has to be happening. I think the pace was relaxed, but I think they somehow managed to make it to that there was always a plot point being hit, so it didn't feel like you were just chilling.
I think I recall hearing this. When you break down a movie, you have scenes ultimately, right?
Yeah.
Each scene needs to satisfy one purpose or more, right?
Yeah.
And I think the difference between Dune and a lot of movies is where maybe scenes are being small scenes or what is considered a small or uneventful scene is rushed to a big scene. This movie takes its time with each scene and allows you to explore the minor details that they set up for that character. Because if we break down each character, I feel like every character was consistent in their motivations and their behaviors, very down to the very small little things that they did, right? Yeah. So, and I think that creates a much more holistic character rather than here's a character and his best friend dies. Here's a character, here's how he eats bread, here's how he drinks water. Yeah. All these little things make a more interesting character in the summation of it.
Yeah. It's not that there's no quote-unquote slow or character-based scenes is that they do such a good job of making every scene do multiple things.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's a scene where he's sort of just like fighting with the army guy.
The Josh Brolin Gurney?
Sure.
For training?
Yeah, for the training. And really nothing actually happens there, right? But the scene does accomplish a lot of things. It shows you that first, he is a competent fighter. He's not just a scrawny little boy. And that he has a relationship with this person. It shows their relationship with each other, gives us a bit into the Josh's character and like how he views. It actually tells us something about the Atreides house as a whole. At least in my head, I'm like, this shows that like the people who work for them are like loyal and actually care about them. It shows you the shields, which is important for the thing. Like it introduces a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so what we're saying here is that Denis Villeneuve is a good director.
Yeah. No, it was good.
Yeah, this is a movie that's like comfortable in what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think it hits it out of the park. It's so weird for me to say that like I love this movie, but like I'm not in love with this movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like
We'll get to the ending because I feel like the ending is what's problematic for me. But
yeah,
perhaps we should not go straight to the ending. No.
Let's talk about whatever we want. This is our part.
Let's talk about the politics.
Okay.
Because we're kind of talking about world building, the politics. What do you think?
It's interesting and simplistic at the same time because like when you break it down, it's actually a very simple thing that happens. It's the Atreides house is getting very powerful. The Emperor does not like that, so he basically sets them up to fail by putting them in charge of something and knowing that the Harkonnen house is going to 100% try to kill them. And they do. End of story. But then, at the heart of it, like, most plots are not actually that convoluted. It's a very simple plot.
Mm-hmm.
And he does it.
I'm trying to think again from, like, what a standard movie would do, or a standard plot. Because this is written by, it's actually a book. I imagine if there's some threat, the Emperor might just act on his own behalf and just try to do something about it. Whereas here, it's more submersive. There is one thing that ties him into all of this, which is the Sakurards, the high-skilled fighters, right?
My god.
Yeah. Whatever they're called. But aside from that, like, he delegates basically to the Hawkins to take care of it, right?
Well, because he can't do this outright. I mean, it's not even just that he's trying to be subtle because he wants to be subtle. It's that he can't not be subtle because he's the Emperor. He's got like the houses, which are other quote-unquote noble houses, which what they'd be in a basic fantasy novel, like think Game of Thrones, the Lannisters and whatnot. You can't just outright go and start killing one of the houses. That doesn't fly. Like, you want them dead, you have to make it happen in a non-obvious way.
But like I feel like a standard movie might just do that. Like,
true.
Okay, someone's too powerful, and I just happen to be super powerful, so I'll just do things myself. I definitely appreciated that, especially with all the names. So I guess I was a little bit confused here and there what the plot was.
There is a lot of names, and maybe I should watch it again, but I don't feel like it particularly slowed down to tell you, oh, this is this person. It's just like, you pick it up or you won't.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like the House of Atreides seemed somewhat aware that this was not...
Oh, 100%.
But they had political advantages too from taking it. They were like, I don't care as much about the spices. What I really care is about the alliance with the natives in that planet to do something. I forget what, but... I forget his first name, but Duke Leto, the father, he knows he's being set up for failure, but he can't directly say no to the Emperor. Mm-hmm. So what he's going to do is try and make the best of the situation. I mean, on all, like, front-facing, it does look like a gift, right? It looks like you've been put charge of the spice, which is the most important resource of the planet. That is kind of a gift, like, here, you guys are doing so good. Here, and it's just like the underhandedness of like, this is set up to kill you. So what the Duke is trying to do is like, let's make this not kill us and let's make this the opportunity that it can be. And like, I think Oscar Isaac does a good job of playing like the entire time he looks like he's a man who knows he's going to die. Mm-hmm. I felt that from him. Like he's there and he's stiff and he's like, he's trying his darndest, but he knows he's being set up for failure. I guess, and part of the tactical and strategic part of it too, they're put into a geographical landscape that they're not really, masters of, right? They come from a planet of ocean, from what I understand.
A more luscious planet.
A luscious planet, and they're put into the Dune. Like, the men are not as equipped. It's a really good setup for failure. So I thought, like, putting them in there strategically weakens whatever technological advances they have or whatever training they have, things like that.
Yeah, take them out of their element, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the layer beneath that is the Bene Gesserit, right? Because that, technically what's happening with Paul is a layer of politics too. Because you've got the Bene Gesserit, which is basically this secret cabal of witch women. It is sort of the summary way of thinking about it. And they're kind of like almost like a shadow government, right? Because to me that was clear, but again, I've read the books. Like, did you feel like these people are definitely running things behind the scenes, or were you just like, what's this weird nun doing?
I think I'm unaware of how much they're running the scenes. I don't know what they're... Because we don't see the Emperor at all, right?
No, but his influence is definitely felt.
Yeah, so I need to know what the established relationship between the witches and the Emperor is before knowing how deep the behind the scenes goes.
Yeah, like, do they work for him, or are they controlling him, or
are
they working with him, or something other relationship?
But I could definitely tell, yes. When they told hearken the Harkonnens
not to kill the other two, and he basically said, yep, would never try to do what I would never try to defy you.
Yeah, that was like, okay, they
definitely have some power there.
Yeah.
I find the prophecy to be very interesting. I'm a big sucker for prophecies and chosen ones. But like, I enjoy them to be flipped on their head, twisted, inverted in some way. Like, I generally don't like it when it's played straight. There's a prophecy, there's a chosen one. Ha ha ha! Let's go and do the thing. I usually enjoy it when there is a prophet, there is a chosen one, and then the story starts messing around with that. Which, even just from this movie, there's like little lines here and there that sort of tell you he's the Quetzalcoatl Haderach, or whatever the title's called, and they mention that this is not supposed to... You weren't supposed to have a boy. You were supposed to have just a girl. And, like, there's definitely some politics here that makes you, like... And he mentioned, like, all these prophecies. I'm like, are these real prophecies? Or have the Bene Gesserit just gone around and, like, basically just lied to a bunch of people and, like, indoctrinated and be like, yeah, there's absolutely a prophecy, right? I mean, I know the answer to that question, but the movie does.
It looks like they're doing a lot to make sure a prophecy comes true.
I don't even believe there is a prophecy.
Okay. Well, from my, I guess, amateur eyes to the story, novice eyes, it feels like there's a lot of work being put into making sure the prophecies come true. I don't know. We'll see. That's a prediction.
We'll see. It's like, so that's your prediction. There is a prophecy, but like they're trying to force it or interpret it the wrong way or something like that.
I'm thinking they might even make the prophecies.
I mean, again, I do know what the answer is, but trying to put myself in just the mind of just reading that line when she's basically talking to basically the head nun, is talking to Jessica. To me, that sounded like, yeah, we just make this entire shit up. Because she also said, we've paved the way on Arrakis for you and your son. And then...
there are other candidates?
There are other candidates. And then Paul at some point says, they just believe this because you've taught them to believe this. Which all to me sound like, whether... I don't believe anything you're saying, basically.
Interesting. All what we're saying is we like the politics.
It's definitely intriguing and like makes you want to know like more about how all this works and what's happening.
Yeah. I will say something problematic about the movie, not about the book, about the movie.
You haven't read the books.
The ending. I understand there's an emotional layer to it, but having the, I guess, last fight, or what presumably feels like the antagonist for the first story, be a rando guy, a rando native, fighting him,
was
anticlimactic.
Honestly, the movie is a weird take. I feel like the movie could have gone on for another 30 minutes, or it could have ended 30 minutes ago. I mean, it's still weird to talk about this movie because I'm like, there's going to be a second part, and really how I feel about Dune, this adaptation, will largely depend on what they do in the second part. But this felt like an odd spot to end. But what felt to me like the emotional climax was his father dying and like them, getting out and trying to survive and all that stuff. And then the movie just sort of goes on for another bit, and then they're in the desert, and they meet the Shai Hulud or whatever. That's the giant worm. And then they meet these people, and then they fight them, and he kills them, and I'm like, okay, now we're going into the sequel. I'm like, okay, can you maybe give me another 20 minutes so I can have like a proper resolution, or you can just like not have done any of this?
Can I throw in an interpretation that I have of what happened? Just to show that I understand, or I think I understand what the director's going for. So I think he gets visions about the girl, and the girl stabbing him, right? The girl being Chani?
Yeah. Which, by the way, any Zendaya fans who came into this movie being like, I want to watch Zendaya, they're probably upset.
They will have to wait for the sequel.
Yep.
But she stabs him with the knife, or with that blade, right? That special blade.
Yeah, the one that's made from like the worm tooth.
Yeah. And in this movie, she doesn't actually stab him, right? But he actually stabs someone else with that blade.
Yeah.
Now, I managed to hear something amongst the witch whispering at one point, and I heard something about killing someone else is killing yourself, basically. The idea that if you go, on a path of revenge, for example, you dig 2 graves.
Okay.
Right? My interpretation is that vision was fulfilled because by killing his opponent there, which he never killed anyone before, they made that clear, he is now, in a way, killed himself. Okay? So that vision of her stabbing him is being fulfilled, and so, there's something there about, taking life and him starting on some sort of path of perhaps darkness. I don't know. It's something there.
Interesting.
It's a prediction. It could be super way off, but based from this director's choice to end it there, I have to feel like there's something important about taking away someone's life, about him because he's basically accepting to be king now. That's the motive that I got from it. He's like, we're going to stay on. Jessica tells him we need to get off planet, and he makes a decision
to stay.
To stay. He's actually displaying activism. By that I mean he's being active.
Yeah.
And he's choosing to make decisions and stuff like that. And he now killed someone.
I mean, he's been active all the movie though.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, I think he just chooses to go. So the way
more of a leadership, maybe I should say.
Okay. Because I guess that is a very metaphorical way of interpreting that, which might be what Denis Villeneuve is going for. I guess in my head, what he sees does not always happen the way he thinks it's going to happen. He sees possible futures. Because he sees that scene of him walking through the cavern with Zendaya. He sees it like 5 different ways. He walks through, she kisses him. He walks through, she stabs him. He walks through, they meet someone else. Like, he sees that same scene happen. I might be misremembered, but I think he sees the same scene a bunch of different ways. I think he just sees possible futures.
Interesting. And this is not fantastical. This is...
Oh, yeah. I mean, like...
Don't tell me.
Obviously, like, this guy's seeing the future. There's nothing non-fantastical about this, but, like, within the Dune universe, it's all, like, this is all just genetic breeding, and, like, we're basically bred this ability.
Interesting.
And the spice has it, because the spice is also, like, what's it called? Not only is it a fuel, it's, like, a psychoactive drug, basically. Like, when you consume the spice, that's why he starts having the visions more when he's in desert, because the spice, like... Basically, it like awakens or flares that up or something like that.
So what I'm getting from this is that I'm way off.
I mean, I don't know.
Don't tell me.
Way off. Like, I genuinely don't remember that. Like, I remember the book in like overarching things. Okay. I don't remember specifics. I don't even know if this was in the book or wasn't. Like, I don't even remember that much.
My interpretation of the vision then for now will be that he killed himself by killing someone else. And this may be leading down to a dark path for him. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I mean, to me, I saw that as like, because he's been having all these visions of like, this war and taking the Fremen and like conquering. That's what it seems like, right? Like he's with the Zendaya, they're conquering, they're fighting, they're destroying stuff or whatever. So it seems like he's having visions of basically becoming King Fremen and like using them to like get revenge for his father or like take over the world or something of that nature. And to me, what was the interesting choice, like choosing to stay in the desert was almost like saying, yes, I will pursue this. I think that's what the prophecy is supposed to be. Like, that's what the Fremen expect, right? Someone's going to come in and take them out. Oh. And he's having visions of, like, basically it being... Because, like, it doesn't look good. Like, it looks pretty bad. It's from the way he's acting. He doesn't seem to like it. So, he's actively choosing, yes, I don't necessarily like this, but I'm going to do it.
Okay, well, all this to say, I understand that there's an emotional significance to this ending, but it still felt...
I mean, he killed the guy, which is that he... Actually, this is the guy... He's actually had visions of this guy.
Yeah. And the guy helped him.
The guy helped him in the visions, but in real life, he didn't help him. He fought and killed, so, like, something. So, like, I guess if we're going with the, like, he can see potential futures, there was a world in which you guys got along and were best friends. And in this world, you didn't. You just fought and you killed him.
Still feels a bit like a lackluster place to end.
Oh, 100%. It felt weird. And, like... The visions and stuff were 100% confusing. Like, most of it is, like, me going back and, like, trying to figure out, like, okay, what the hell was they trying to do? And while watching the movie, not really remembering really anything about the book, I was just confused.
Yeah.
But it's hard to kind of... There's a lot of information to portray. Like, how did they explain all these things to you? Like, the movie does do a reasonable enough job.
Yes.
That, like, the mother is teaching him about... these things and stuff like that, which can tell you that, okay, this isn't some, like, super mystical random magic, that this is something that's taught in some way. I think the movie does a good enough job trying to, like, hint at sort of the world. There's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of text in Dune, and, like, it's basically, it would be impossible to adapt all of it and, like, pull it off. We've kind of covered some of your predictions, but what would say some key things you took away from this movie that you think are good?
Themes?
Yeah. What was the point of this movie?
To set up a sequel.
It does feel that way a bit. Theme. Well, I know what the theme of Dune is. Well, what I think the theme of Dune is. You should be wary of charismatic people and chosen ones and prophecies and stuff like that, because probably don't just follow someone because people told you to follow the person. But I don't know what the theme of this specific movie is.
So there's a conversation with the father, Duke, and Paul in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And he's like, they're talking about him taking up becoming a king. And, Paul doesn't really want to. And he says, this is a decision for you to make. Yeah. It's up to you whether you become a leader or not, right? It seems like this is a story about him becoming a leader, right?
Yeah, I guess.
After everything we said about him killing, and then you mentioned how, like, him staying is to actively choose to accept his destiny, or what seems like a possible destiny.
Yeah. Yeah, but is that a theme? That's I'm trying to think of, like, what's the movie trying to tell me? I don't know if the movie's actually telling me anything. Which is not to say it's a bad movie. I just can't. I think it's more just saying I'm struggling to draw out a theme. I need to be forced to write an essay on this.
Destiny is a choice.
Okay, I mean, that's like the obvious on your head, like destiny and like free will and like choices and stuff like that. But there's usually sub-themes and whatnot that I'm struggling to pull out anything right now. I mean, it's also said something like gluttony is bad. The Harkonnen, however you pronounce that. They're a pretty gluttonous house, right? The main guy is, like, overweight, stuffing his face, and, like, can't even move anymore. He needs to, like... Which, by the way, if they have this technology for getting people to float, I mean, it's obviously super expensive, but I would imagine there are more people. At least some of the richer people are using this thing. But yeah, he's, like, basically a glutton, and he floating around, and, like, basically excess is bad. Because, like, that entire house is just excess, right? Even when he thinks all the Atreides are dead, he's like, yep, go back to Arrakis, kill all the Fremen, and, like, let's basically squeeze it dry. So, there's that. Which could be a theme.
I think I'd have to watch it again to find more themes. Because, like you said, we both think it finishes at an awkward spot, right? So obviously there's more depth to it to come, and a lot of this one was me just seeing him like slowly accept who he is.
Yeah.
Right, and like the idea that you make your own destiny, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd have to watch it a second time to gain more thematical elements from it.
Alright, stay tuned for Dune Part 2. I guess we could talk about some smaller stuff. Jason Momoa was in this movie.
Jason
existed. Minor thing. It's when he was fighting all those people and killing them, I just sat there for a second and thought, my criticism right now is going to be completely unfair. Because I love me a good, lone swordsman. Oh, this one guy can take out 10 people because he's just so skilled and whatever. I can read a good book about that. I can watch an anime about that. But for some reason, once you put that into live action, I can't help but look at it and just be like, this is comical, right? Like, there's no way this guy fought 20 people. I don't care how good he is. These are trained soldiers. They 100% killed him in the first 5 seconds.
Yeah, I guess when you add realism.
Yeah. Something about the live action medium. I mean, obviously, different mediums just naturally come with different levels of suspension of disbelief. And live action, it screws with some of that stuff. I can't get past it.
I wonder what your thoughts are on Ip Man. Donnie Yen.
I think it's
10 karate guys.
I think it's fantastical. But because he's doing all the Wing Chun stuff, I'm just like, oh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
But in my head, I'm like, there's no way you follow these things. This is making sense.
It is more believable when the person is actually a martial arts expert.
Yeah. Maybe not that it's not doable. It's like in Ip Man, because they're so focused on the technique, you can see him using the technique to take down people. And while it's obviously you have to suspend your disbelief enough, they give me enough to go. Whereas this is just, he's swinging his sword and they're swinging their swords. And I'm not necessarily seeing any specific technique. I'm just seeing that there was 10 people and none of them managed to stab him with their sword.
Tangent, explain this to me. I knew there were explosives, and then I saw swords, and I assumed you have swords because people have shields.
Yes.
But Paul does bring out a pistol or a gun of some sort at some point.
I think it's one of those bee shooters. Don't quote me on that.
Shoots
bees? The bee thing. Like that stuff that they used to kill the dad.
Oh.
I forget what it's called, but the stuff that just goes and keeps drilling until it gets through.
Okay.
I assume that's what he was holding. I'm actually not sure.
What happened, by the way, to the bodyguards?
What bodyguards?
Josh Brolin.
Presumably they all died.
They didn't show it.
They didn't show it, so, if you don't see a body, maybe they're still around.
Okay.
But presumably they all died.
Okay.
Same thing with Jason Momoa. For some reason, I was just like, I don't believe you're dead. I don't know why. I just don't believe they signed Jason Momoa up to die. Something about the choice of actor, I just do not believe that character is dead.
Interesting. Yeah, so many A-list actors to kill off.
Yeah.
It's kind of Infinity War of them.
I can't say we don't see he's dead, because we definitely see, oh my god, when he stood up after being stabbed through the chest, I was like, okay guys, calm down.
You watch anime.
That's the thing, is I watch an anime, I'm like, oh yeah, you get him. And in the movie, I'm just like, okay, please. How do you feel about the characters? How do you feel about Paul? How do you feel about the mother? How do you feel about Duke Leto?
Paul was good. I think sometimes you get princes that are just absolutely rebellious, or you get princes that are absolutely by the book.
Yeah.
He felt like a mixture of two, torn between two. And it's interesting that he has two birthrights, right? He's a leader, born to be leader, but he also is born to have this super powerful voice.
Yeah.
And so between, I guess, the concubine and Duke, he has a little bit of this self-discipline, but he also has a little bit of not necessarily by the books. He like you said, he was active. He would take steps on his own to do something. He will learn about a culture on his own. He will. He wanted to go and be a part of the war to save Jason Momoa because he imagined Jason Momoa dying.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I found him like most fantasy protagonists, very, very milk toast, which is my new favorite thing to say. But I mean, they're just bland. Not bland as in he doesn't do anything. Like, he's an active character, he does stuff, but like, he's not like bursting with personality. He's okay, I don't dislike him, but he's just sort of there. And he's almost like a funnel for the plot. He has that weird thing where he's learning, like he knows how to do the Fremen stuff already. Like he's such an expert at it, which the movie kind of shows like he's done some research in their culture. I'm also like, okay, well, you have had visions about this guy teaching you. So is that like a weird thing where like you're seeing possible futures, but you're actually getting information from your visions of possible futures? That would be kind of broken.
I think he did. And other characters were good too. I liked Duke Leto.
I enjoyed that it was a minor thing, but like when he said, you know, obviously I want you to take over the house and all that, but if you decide you don't want that, you're still my son and I still love you, basically. Just sometimes it's just nice to see a good father-son relationship.
Yeah.
It's like, yep, that's a good dad, and he's got a good son.
Yeah.
Good job. The mother was interesting, because I didn't know if I was supposed to trust her. So I thought she was going to be like really cold, and like, the moment I learned she was like Bene Gesserit, I was like, oh, she's probably going to be like really cold, really like reserved and stuff. She's very emotional. It like surprised me the first time. I was like, whoa, what are you doing? And then I was like, oh, I guess, I don't know why I assumed you would be cold. Really, nothing about the text told me you were going to be cold. I just assumed you were going to be cold, and you're really not. But I still don't know like what she's about.
Lady Jessica. She's interesting because she is in many ways a good mother, and I think in some ways also a bad mother, it seems. Like, because she has that struggle of like, this is my son, but also this is some prophecy boy.
So actually, now that I'm thinking about it, most of her emotional displays are when she's alone. Like when she's around people, she's actually very reserved.
Mm.
And it's when she's like, you know, outside the door while he's doing that stuff that she's like clutching at her stomach and dry heaving whatever she's doing, which I thought was a bit overacted. I'm trying to remember in the books if like it's because she's like scheming or something that she had a son, or if it's because like Duke Leto wanted a son. Like I don't actually remember why, but that in itself I found fascinating. The fact that just a little tidbit that they dropped there, it's like you were supposed to only have daughters, which tells me that she can control what she's going to have. Like
Wait.
because like she was not supposed to have a son. That means that she has control of that, and she chose to have a son, which makes all their weird powers really weird. Right?
Whoa.
Like, what can you really do?
Okay, I never understood. It's like how do you control?
Yeah, I think that's the thing with them. Like it's like basically breeding until like they have like really specific full weird control over their body and like weird control over weird stuff. Like I think it's supposed to be like when they say the truth sayer or something like that. It's not that she can like read your mind. It's that she's just so freaking perceptive that she can tell when you're telling the truth or not. And like when he sticks his hand in the box for the pain thing, it's not like the pain stopped. It's that he started controlling himself and just stopped reacting to the pain.
Oh.
Which is like, so you're supposed to have that much control over yourself, which is, I mean, there's one thing to say you can ignore pain. It's another level to say I can choose like which chromosomes are going to combine and like whether or not I have a daughter or a son. What else can I choose? Can I choose if they're blonde or not? Or like, how far does this go?
Dang. You know who we haven't mentioned at all? Because he got very, very little screen time?
The doctor guy?
Dave Bautista.
Oh, yeah. He was in this movie.
He was!
Yeah, it sort of seems weird that they hired such a high-profile actor and really nothing came with that. I guess they're probably going to be in the sequel. Yeah, he wasn't back there when they got poisoned, so he's still alive, he's still kicking. And the Harkonnen main guy is still alive, so... And that was weird now I think about it.
Yeah.
Usually when you hear like a high-profile actor, you expect him to have some screen time, but I don't know, he showed up once, he yelled, showed up another time, he cut some people's heads off. That's about it.
That's about it.
Yep.
So, what I'm getting from this is overall, good movie. It's more plot and world-building focused, more intellectually engaging.
Yeah, I would say for the movie, trying to separate the movie and the book in my head.
Okay.
For the movie, I would say that I loved the spectacle of the movie, like the visuals, the music was too loud. Yes, we talked about that, but like the music, the visuals, everything was nice. I enjoyed the ride it took me on. I enjoyed the hints of the broader world I was put on. That is what got me through the story. Like I wasn't particularly engaged in what Paul was going to do next. I was more thinking about how will this play out? What is the plan of the Bene Gesserit? Like, what are they going for here? How is this going to work? Like, those are the things I was thinking about. Those are the things that I want to know, which in my head is a failing of a movie, a book, or anything. I think I should care about your characters, but obviously, to each their own. And I think that the movie ended in a spot that left me more annoyed than anything. I was annoyed that this is where the movie ended, because I was like, you're sequel baiting me. Stop sequel baiting me.
Yeah, I agree.
But overall, I thought it was a very, beautiful, all the superlatives for like a well-done movie and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I guess this might be more the book, but I really respect the amount of thought that went into making sure that the characters are consistent, each one having their own, even if I'm not necessarily emotionally attached, I can still see that there's motivations, there's flesh to their character, and the politics was good. I can see that a lot of thought went into it, is what I can say.
Yeah, I mean that's not necessarily all the book, right? Because we have there's lots of examples of great books that turn into very, very terrible TV shows. So the fact that they were able to like adapt it well is a testament to them.
It just feels like sometimes, in some Hollywood movies, it feels like maybe they spent a weekend writing the script.
I mean, I always feel bad saying that because I know that there were probably months and months and months of people working on these things, and what probably happened is that people worked on it, and then as it happens, you do your shoots, and then you send in, and there's editing, and people give feedback, and they're like, nope, this can't work. This needs to change. It goes up, it comes down. They make edits, they make changes, and like in the process of like refining, not even refining, just like making changes, it's just like stuff starts to break down, and you just end up with like, from what I understand, it's like sometimes you end up with like the editor and stuff like that. They just have scenes, and it's like maybe they've re-recorded some lines, but not reshot, and like you just end up with like, honestly, when I think about actually what goes into movies, I'm surprised that we're able to get movies at all. So I'm like, this seems like a goddamn nightmare.
I would say that is definitely the case for some movies. There are still some movies I feel like
I mean, honestly,
not put a lot of work.
Oh yeah. there are probably some movies that are just a little bit phoned in. But yeah, I mean, honestly, sometimes even like some of like the best movies and everything, when you get into like all the behind the scenes stuff, you're like, holy crap, this is a freaking the clown show. How did they manage to get anything reasonable out of this? Anyway, how would you rate Dune? We need to pick like a fun way to rate movies. What key on the keyboard would you give Dune?
Key on the keyboard?
Yeah.
I was going to say I wouldn't rate it as sand.
Okay.
Because I hate sand. Because it's coarse. What key on the keyboard?
Yeah. Or maybe we can rate it in terms of one of the Star Wars movies.
You go first.
I'll give this a solid Return of the Jedi.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
I'd actually give it A New Hope. Because A New Hope, it kind of fits. They're both the first movie, I guess, in the story.
The best thing about this is that we probably internally have different ways we rate these movies.
A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. Sounds good to me.
Excellent. And now, for the ad break, this video is brought to you by
Manscaped.
Oh my god, those ads are freaking hilarious, man. They're just so bold. Get your manscaping today.
Did you have a different one in mind?
Brought to you by Windows
11
XP.
No! No!
Oh my goodness. Alright, goodbye. Get out of here.